Hi there, everybody. I'm Fred Thomas, and you are watching All Things Bike, brought to you by AD Bikes and Frame and Wheel. And today we are speaking with Pam Fernandez, Jessica Eckhardt, and Ed Kross of the New England Velodrome and Sports Complex, a new organization with the mission of bringing a velodrome to New England. Pam, Jessica, Ed, welcome to All Things Bike.
Be here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming down. Well, this is an exciting topic, and I have to say it's a fascinating one. And before we delve into what a velodrome is and what it means, can you each give us a background of how you got involved in the project? Starting with you, Pam. How about that?
Well, I actually was a bike racer for the U.S. Paralympic team for about 12 years, and when I found the velodrome in my own racing, I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. And I used to train on the road, but I competed only on the track, and it was fabulous. So with this project, when Boston was in the running for the 2024 Olympic Games, I thought they have to build a velodrome because we don't have one, and we cyclists who live in New England need to make sure it stays here. So that's how I got involved. So I called Ed, and we sort of decided that we should do something about that. So
Wonderful.
we got ourselves together.
Wonderful. Well, then, Ed, when was this, and what was your connection to velodromes and track cycling?
I've, of course, been riding all my life, like most cyclists, but
Right.
I started kind of late in life. I started racing when I was just under 30, but I got very involved at the time. I wrapped my whole life around it, which is what you need to do. And I promoted some races, got
Right.
involved. I was president of our bike club for a number of years. And then through the process, I got to know Pam. She was looking for a pilot,
Right.
and so I rode with her, and of course was quite impressed with her background.
Yeah.
As a Paralympian,
Right.
and she was always telling me about tracks. But then, again, as she said a couple of years ago, when the proposal was put out to have Boston host the Olympics, she says, Ed, we can't let them tear down a velodrome if they build it here. So,
Yeah.
so we said, and there has been talk of velodrome all the time.
For years.
I've been riding, and,
Yeah.
and it's what New England wants.
Yeah.
All the cyclists want it.
Yeah.
So it is exciting to be part of this, and
Yeah.
hopefully we will get this
Right.
going.
So the connection in the background was through racing for both of you, and then and how about you, Jessica? What was your connection to velodromes and this project?
I started out as an ultracyclist as well, and I met Ed through one of the local Boston area bike clubs. And after doing ultracycling for a few years, I've done very little actual track racing myself, but was involved in this project because Ed and Pam called me up. They said, hey, you have some of the computer skills, and
Right.
we'd love to have you on board.
Wonderful.
So, and Pam and Ed are both dear friends of mine, so I couldn't turn them down.
There you go. Well, so what is the organizational structure then? Is it a corporation or is it a nonprofit? Or?
No, it's a nonprofit, and that was fairly clear from the beginning that was the way we should do it. We did have, once we got the idea kind of rolling, we did have a couple of community meetings where we invited everyone to come and tell us what they thought, what they wanted. So the idea of having a nonprofit was what everyone wanted clearly, and also thought that was we would have the best chance of success.
Right.
Having a nonprofit. And not only that, but my background is actually nonprofit. So I know the ins and outs of being a nonprofit, and I know that there's plenty of advantages to having a nonprofit. So that's the way we decided to, and that's how we incorporated as
Right.
a nonprofit.
Well, and just incorporating the organization, I think, is the most concrete step I've ever heard of in years and years of the talk about a velodrome. Who else is involved in this project?
Right now, it's mostly just us. We are the officers of the organization, but we've really engaged the entire cycling community. Right, bike clubs, racers, recreational riders as well, and communities, bike shops. We've tried to pull everyone into it. So
Oh,
every
yeah.
time we talk about we're talking
Right.
the whole New England Velodrome and Sports Complex is the whole cycling.
Right, it's, yeah, well, that's great.
And we also have some professionals who have donated their services that are really important to helping us get all this rolling. So we do have an accounting firm
Right.
who helped us establish the 501c3 and are continuing to give us guidance. And we also have pro bono services from Broder Partners in Boston, and they're a public relations firm, and they've remained steadfast with us as well. And then we do have a web design gentleman, John Sachs, who's been with us. And then we have already approached an attorney who's also offered to donate his services pro bono.
Again, that's fantastic, because sometimes to signal to the market that you're serious, you have to do all of this administrative stuff, and
Right.
it's fantastic because it is the most concrete step I've ever seen and heard of. What is a velodrome? There are probably a lot of people who really are not so sure what it is. I mean, is it? I mean, I don't even know what kind of word it is. Is it Latin or Italian?
I think it's French.
Velo.
Velo's French. Yeah,
that's right.
So I think velodrome is, so the velodrome refers to the entire facility.
Right.
The track surface is, the actual track that you ride on. So a velodrome is essentially a bike racing track, which can be indoors or outdoors, and it is a banked track which can go from something relatively flat with very little banking, but an official track is actually more banked. So it would be about 18 degrees on the straightaways, because it's an oval. They're all built in an oval shape.
How long are they? Some are longer than others.
Yeah, I mean, officially it's going to be either a 333 meter track, or it's going to be a 250. And a 250 meter track is actually the international standard.
Right.
And they can be built of cement or wood,
Right.
Indoor, outdoor. They can be different. The banking can be different. I've been on a 45-degree bank track, which a lot of the 250s are. But that's essentially, and then usually there are stands built
Right.
around the top of the track.
Right.
So and that's why track racing is also so exciting, is you look down
Right.
into it. So you see the racers racing the whole way around. You
Right.
don't miss any action at all, which is
Right.
great.
Well, is that what you have envisaged for this for the project? I mean, have you really identified exactly what it would look like?
Well, it's sort of, well, we know what the ideal would be, and that
Right.
would be an indoor and probably a wood track, probably a 250, and that's something that you could have international events on. That would be the ideal, but it doesn't have to go that far. The idea is to build one anyway,
Right.
one way or the other, and make it as close to the ideal as possible. But
Right.
certainly, in New England here, as you know,
It would-
indoor really is what we need. Right?
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. It broadens the possibilities and it makes it a year-round thing. What would the impact be of an indoor facility like this on a community from an economic standpoint, economic development standpoint?
Well, we think there's a lot, because not only will our facility be for bike racing, but we also want to incorporate some other activities, because it's a fairly large facility, and we want to be able to include the whole family. So, for example, if mom's taking a training class and dad's bike racing, we'll have something for the kids that they can
Great
do.
sense. I mean, if you have a gym, so that mom can use the gym, or the kids can use the gym, and
Oh,
back
we
and go
fully
and
intend, and we fully intend to have programs for young children
Sure,
to
yeah.
teach them how to ride,
Sure.
because a lot of kids, it's scary for parents sometimes if they live on a busy road, or they're
Yeah.
worried about curbs or sidewalks that have bumps and holes in them.
Sure.
We will have a coach who specializes in working with little ones, who can even get them off training wheels, and they can ride on the infield of the track, and we can put up little obstacle courses. So, but we also hope to have, for example, rock climbing. because we will have a tall facility. We also have talked about doing having a walking track for sure.
Right.
Maybe a gym, maybe spin classes. You know, it
Weight
kind
room,
of depends. A weight room, sure. A pro shop, a coffee shop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even a bike
We're
shop.
dreaming big.
But that's important, because the more detail you have to the vision, the easier it is going to be for people to look at it. Now, have you, Jessica, taken a look at any of the other velodromes that are out there in the other parts of the country or other parts of the world?
So we've done research projects on it, but I think the most fun experience I had was when Pam and I traveled down to Trexlertown.
Oh, yeah.
So we went down to see the tandemonium bike racing. So it was tandems racing
right.
each other.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, that's
which
sort of unusual, right?
I mean, I've ridden with Pam before, but I've never actually seen tandems race on a track. So that was very exciting.
terrifying. Almost as terrifying as tandem time trials.
It was pretty. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it was a
great.
lot of fun.
But what did you learn? I mean, what did you pick up from just being there in terms of the vibe, the culture, and maybe just the way they have things set up?
Sure. So actually driving in was the first part of the experience. They actually have bike lanes. I mean, they have more space than you do in the Boston area, but they had bike lanes and the roads were set up for cyclists. And where the roads were too busy, they had an option to take the cyclists off the roads.
And this is in the Pennsylvania...
This is Trexlertown.
That's the actual town, Trexlertown.
It used to be cornfields, I guess.
Yeah, right. Well,
A lot of it still is.
But everything that's popped up is around cycling. And so you approach and there are 3 or 4 bike shops in the vicinity and you pull in, and while there's a large parking area for those who are getting there by car,
Right.
there are bike cages to store your bike in. There's, you know, an entire facility. There's a picnic area right when you walk in the velodrome.
Wow, right. So it really is designed around cycling. It has cycling culture right
does.
from the start. Well,
It
but
does.
it's outdoors, though, right?
It is, yeah.
Right. Then then they just close the thing down in
In the winter,
January.
they don't do it.
Really? And is there? I mean, have you read up about Manchester or the one? There's a new one up in Milton, Ontario, I think.
Well, before we move to that, though, you know, the other thing that we saw in Trexlertown, we went back the next morning, so we went to the Friday night races, and they had, you know, great concessions, and people, there were lots and lots of spectators. But the next morning we went back because we wanted to see the Pee Wee Peddlers.
Yeah.
And what did we encounter but a...
They had a whole farm stand in there. So they were
In
doing...
the infield.
No, this was
Or-
actually in the picnic
parking lot,
area.
right.
So anybody could walk in. It was free admission. So
Right.
for the races, we paid a minimal fee to help support the facility. But for, you know, the next morning, they had a whole farm stand.
Oh, that's great. So it really does have an impact on more than the cycling community. It's a venue
Yeah.
where people can set up markets, and but the infield is sort of off limits. Infield is all bikes and the trainers and rollers and all that. I think in the old days, you know, we're talking 100 years ago. And we'll get to this.
Yeah, right.
The infield was sort of a party zone, and the whole thing was inside, and of course there were fewer forms of entertainment back then. But
Well, and the other thing about the economic impact of the facility is, you know, when we have racing, we hope for it not to just be local, which of course we want, because we want to provide racing opportunities for New England, but hopefully we'll be doing some national events and possibly international. And if we do that, then there's going to be an impact on people who are going to stay overnight. They're going to stay through the weekend. They're going to eat out. They're going to shop. They're going to pick up gas. So we're hoping, I mean, I think obviously there's going to be an impact, you know, that extends beyond what goes on inside the velodrome.
Sure, yeah. Well, have you identified an optimal location, or do you know what an optimal location would be?
Jessica, why don't you take that?
Sure. So we don't have an exact location in mind right now. We've actually spoken with a couple communities, and we need to speak with a few more.
Sure.
We're still pretty early in that process. But one of the big things is we need access to population who are going to use it. And by that I mean all aspects of it. So not just the bike racing part, but all of the alternative uses. Since we're hoping to tailor it towards international events, we definitely want good road access, we want good airplane access, good public transit access, whatever that may be. And yeah,
I see. Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty of selection in New England. How would I mean, you call it the New England Velodrome. Does that mean that it's a communal, a shared effort of all the states in some way? Or,
we hope so.
Or
We
you
hope so, yeah.
so there's a way that if it's located in one New England state, all the other New England states can have some sort of access.
It wouldn't be state-specific, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be, obviously, it has to be located in one state.
Yeah, but
We'd serve, primarily the New England region, but
Right.
obviously people will come from outside. They would come from Pennsylvania, New York, and
Right,
beyond.
yeah.
Even for some, some of the regular racing.
Yeah.
People do take road trips, when they go cycling. And for instance, the New Englanders now, all they can do is they can get out of Trexlertown.
Or Milton.
Or Milton.
now.
But you got to
Or-
want it.
I talked about
That's
that
12
one.
hours.
Yeah, but either way, it's a hike, and
Yeah.
and it's something you have to plan well in advance. But
Yeah.
if you're coming up from upstate New York, it's a couple hours down, to almost anywhere in New England. So
Yeah. So there's plenty of population around, and the nearest velodrome is quite a ways off. Can we talk numbers? I mean, do you talk numbers, or is that just? I mean, it's sort of hard. It's early days, but I mean,
Yeah.
with respect to
with
participants,
with how much needs to be raised and how much, or for example, how much was spent and how was it spent for the facility up in Canada? I don't know. I mean, are there numbers at this stage, or?
Ed? Do you want to talk Milton?
I got a chance to go up and when they opened Milton, Milton, Ontario. It's right outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
They opened that in 2015 for the Pan American Games. I went up in August to watch the Pan Am Games in the Velodrome. So it just opened that Velodrome up that January. Beautiful facility. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't elaborate, but it was just built right. I mean, you walk in and it's totally accessible without even thinking about it. It's just designed the way it should be. That, at the time, that cost them about $50 million Canadian. And but that's, again, the cost of a facility. I think if anyone in construction would tell you, it depends on what the economy is doing at the time.
Right.
So that gives you at least an idea.
That's sort of
what
one
an ideal facility would be.
one side of the spectrum. Well, who builds them? It's not just any construction company,
No.
right? Or there are specific people who build these things.
Well, there are just a few architects that are good at putting a velodrome building together. There's a couple of, probably just a handful of track builders, the ones that actually build the track inside.
I see.
There's just a few of those around the world. And
Good ones.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they come out pretty well. They talk about, they try to make them faster and faster.
Right.
Better to ride, but yeah, but as far as the building itself to go into, yes, there are architects out there that specifically do
Right.
velodromes, but it's, in talking with people, it's not absolutely necessary that you get one that's specific
Right.
for the building.
Yeah, that's right. The building is the building, and
Right.
and then you just
Right. You
put
give them
the track
requirements
in there.
and they'll put up the steel.
Well, what about the revenue sources that would be generated by this facility?
But again, we call it the New England Velodrome and Sports Complex. You want to emphasize that it's more than just the cycling in there. There's, as mentioned earlier, other activities that could be in there. We've got the entire infield, which normally during a race
Right.
would be reserved for the racers and the officials. But during normal operation, you look at any velodrome around, they always have activities in the middle, usually basketball courts or something like that.
I see. So I see. Yeah.
And in the case we're talking about, a walking track around the outside of the bleachers, around the
Right.
track. And those, again, being indoors, the people that would love to have that.
I see. Yeah. So if there is no racing going on or no training or something, or some evening you could have a concert or
Right.
some other affair of some sort.
And we'll also have meeting
Conferences,
rooms
yeah.
that people can rent. Of course, in whatever community we locate,
Right.
there would be a relationship with the community, so meeting space would be offered at free or at a discount.
Right. What about the topic of gambling? Does that come up at all when you talk to the various communities?
Hasn't come up yet. I don't know that it fits our mission, so I'm not sure how advisable it
Sure.
would be. But we want to talk. Anyone who wants to be part of this project, this conversation, we are absolutely willing to talk to.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably the way to present it. What about the people can volunteer, right? I mean, give us an idea of what the volunteering
you hear us all
opportunities might
laughing,
be
yeah.
there.
Absolutely. And in fact, I think we can probably say with some reasonable assurance that if we do not get volunteers, this project will be hard pressed to go forward. Everybody
How do you mean?
wants.
Elaborate.
Well, everybody wants a velodrome. I mean, we've talked to hundreds of cyclists. You know,
Sure.
every cyclist you talk to absolutely wants a velodrome. But it's a lot of work. The three of us have worked exclusively on this for 2 years now, and we'd like to be so much further along.
Yeah.
So yes, we will take volunteers if you have an hour, if you have an hour a week,
Right.
if you'd like to be on a volunteer committee. We would love it. We need people to help promote the organization. We need to run some fundraisers to help, you know, right now operational costs are coming out of our pockets right now. So we'd like to be able to raise, you know, a couple $1,000s to support, you know, so we don't have to keep digging into our own pockets. You know, we would love someone to take social media. We need help with social media.
Right.
I'm visually impaired. Facebook is not friendly for people who are visually impaired. We don't have a Twitter account yet. We'd love that. You know, people who have a specialty or interest in government, it's because we will be working within municipalities.
Sure, yeah.
So we need someone with that experience. Anything else we can?
Yeah, I mean, there's I mean, you take your pick.
Emphasize enough, people love to learn new things.
Yeah.
In fact, I found that out working with volunteer clubs
Like bike clubs,
ski
exactly.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Just because somebody doesn't right now have the expertise and it's something they always wanted to learn, there's no better way to learn than to jump right in
and start doing it. Yeah.
Certainly willing to look at that.
Yeah. No, well, and you've picked the right structure. If it's a nonprofit organization, it's suitable for volunteers.
As Pam said, there's you know, just 3 of us, and all cyclists want it.
That's
but,
great.
We all 3 work full time as well. It's just a matter, you know, if that's your passion, if you want to be part of something, we definitely want to have you help out.
That's great. Well, that's a great message, and I bet you get a lot of people who want to participate because the goal or the result is something that really can put your cycling on a different trajectory among all the other things. I think.
And I think people are a little afraid of commitment. So our message is, if you have a week, you know, that you're a little less busy because the kids are at camp, or if you're between jobs, or if you want to work on something in the summer but not during the school year.
Work on a business plan.
Bring it. Actually, we have a business plan, and that is in the hands of our consultant at the moment.
But they always have to be redone.
They always have to be redone. Absolutely.
Keep it short, and, you know.
So yeah, whatever. If you have interest, we'll find something to suit your talents or
great.
interest. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the history of the velodromes and track cycling, because it really is. It's a 20th century sport, and we're in the 21st century, so it sounds so dated. But what have you learned about velodromes and track cycling in the U.S., for example?
Well, one thing you read about what would happen around the turn of the last century and beyond that, and I mean, I don't think our mission is so much to try to remake history, but rather to bring it back forth.
Reimagine it for the 21st century.
Again, there is interest out there. Everybody talks about it, but nobody's built anything.
That's right.
There's been a couple of minor attempts at it, and they really haven't gone anywhere. But with all that interest out there, it's going to happen.
Sure, and a lot of it is, I mean, society has a collective memory of what it used to be, track cycling, the Madison Square Garden. It got its name from the Madison 6-day racing event.
But the other thing too is it would be immune to all of the other outside stuff. For instance, you know, road racing obviously gets, and I've been a promoter of road races, they get very difficult. You deal with many communities, and it doesn't always work. It's getting so busy out on those roads.
I know.
And but if you had a dedicated complex for this,
Yeah.
then you just do it. You just keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's something that would be sustainable.
And it does transfer very well to road cycling. So all in.
Especially, what I was figuring, wintertime, okay?
Oh yeah.
Cyclists, a lot of them still ride on the road. I never did.
Yeah, I know. Well,
I picked another sport for winter.
Up to about a certain age, then they stop doing it. Right?
But if you could get to ride a different discipline in the wintertime,
Yeah.
I mean, the winter track season would be unbelievable here.
Oh, I know.
And you could go on for several months. You could jump in. You could take a week or two off when
Yeah,
you can't make it, or travel or vacation elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it's something that it would always be there.
Sure.
And you don't all of a sudden, have a municipality say, well, we can't do it this year. We don't have the interest, or we want to bring so many more police in to do it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it starts
that's
running
right.
the cost up. And,
Yeah.
we've been through all that, but I think with a track facility, that all those problems go away.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
And the interest would always be there.
Yeah.
And the other thing, just being on a track,
Mhm.
and just they look very intimidating,
Yeah.
when you first get to them, but once you start riding them, and I always
So
tell
much
people,
fun.
you never see anybody when they finally get up off of the apron is the flat area in
Right.
between. Eventually, when you start picking up your speed and get up onto the bank and start taking them at full speed, that's when it gets so much fun. And I always tell people,
Yeah.
you never see anybody get off under those conditions without a grin that just doesn't fit on their face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So much fun.
Yeah, I still I run Learn to Race clinics, bike camps out at the U.S. Olympic Training Center for riders with disabilities, and so I've been doing that for about 22 years, and we do 2 camps a year, and most of the people who come to camp are familiar with riding on the road and training on the road. When I tell them we're going to the Velodrome, people get really nervous when we tell them what it is. And we have a lot of experience putting novices on the track, and the grins don't start until after they get the nerves out. But then people are smiling.
Sure.
I had a triathlete come to a camp who was blind. And she, after they did a big effort and they went really fast, she came into the infield, huge smile on her face. She's like, I am quitting triathlon.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to race on
Why
the
are you
track,
still doing it?
Pam.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the excitement the track generates. And
Sure.
are there people who, it's not for them? Of course.
Sure.
But the majority of people, once they realize that it's not as intimidating, that it's safe.
And it's great apparently for your bike handling skills.
Oh,
and-
very.
And your pedal stroke. And then the whole traffic.
And your attentiveness.
And your attentiveness, and also the concentration factor. Just as a sort of a few wrap-up questions, has USA Cycling gotten involved in any way?
We have been and are in conversation with USA Cycling. The best we can tell you is they know what we're doing.
Right. Well, that's better. I think once they see that you're organized and you're getting the message out, that will keep their
so
attention.
they do know what we're doing, and they're following our progress.
We want to expand track cycling.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And how would you envisage Strava and Zwift sort of fitting in with a
Oh, we
track?
could do a
guess
Strava competition.
Sure.
I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, it's like doing an hour record on the track or something. Like, we could open
I bet you
opportunities.
anything people would sort of scale back their Zwift activities and go to the Velodrome because Zwift is great.
Don't
but
really want to steal people from other sports. We want
No.
to really bring more people into the sport.
There's plenty.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
There's overlaps and
And again,
transferability.
doesn't necessarily have to compete with road cycling.
No, it
The winter
augments.
season is a lot longer than the summer road season.
It can be. Well, I see it as a great opportunity to obtain a track bicycle to add to the vast collection of
Cheaper
bicycles.
than road bikes.
Yeah, that's right. And no gear. Well, only one gear, right? And no
And-
brakes.
And we also will have rentals.
There you go. Wonderful. Well, are there any last things that we should know about, or you want to mention before we sign off?
Just trying to get the word out that it's, we're going to make this happen.
Great.
It's exciting sport.
Yep.
And
And
people don't know how exciting it is until they get into it.
Yeah. No, well.
And we do have a Facebook page that
yeah.
one of the things that that we can use as a marker of interest is Facebook likes these
Sure,
days.
yeah.
So if people would look up New England Velodrome, it's the first thing that'll pop up when you Google.
Absolutely.
And it'll be our Facebook page. You can write to us through that. You know, please be in touch, give us your thoughts, your ideas, and let's make this a reality.
Absolutely.
Because it's been over 30 years since people have wanted this.
I'm tired of hearing people saying, oh, we should really have a velodrome. You know, anyway, you hit the big time. You're on All Things Bike, so your message will get
Awesome.
out to the cycling community. And thank you
Fabulous.
all for coming down. It's been great to hear about this, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be in touch with you soon about it.
Excellent.
Hope so.
Good. Thanks, Brett.
Wonderful.
And you'll get an honorary membership.
Oh, come on, don't be so generous. Wonderful. That was, okay, everybody, that was Pam Fernandez and Jessica Eckhardt and Ed Kross of the New England Velodrome and Sports Complex. You can learn more about the New England Velodrome and Sports Complex at their website, which is nevelodrome.org. They are on Facebook as well. That's all we have the time for. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All Things Bike with Fred Thomas is brought to you by Frame and Wheel, eBay selling services for cyclists and bike shops throughout New England, and AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling and the bike company of the future.